Well, hello everybody, welcome to Chef's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making a lemon yoghurt loaf cake, or a lemon yogurt loaf cake depending on where you come from. For that I have a £2 loaf tin which I have buttered and floured, and I've also put some parchment paper in the bottom just to make sure that I can get it out of the tin satisfactorily. It should come out just with the butter and the flour, but that's just being doubly safe. Now for the ingredients, I have 210 grams of plain flour, and I have 2 tablespoons of baking powder and half a teaspoon of salt, which I'm going to put in there and just mix it round. Now you can sift this, but I don't think it's necessary to sift it, to be perfectly honest. Then I also have 265 grams of caster sugar, or you could use granulated sugar, 3 large eggs, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 205 millilitres of natural yogurt. You can use Greek yogurt. I have 160 millilitres of butter which I've melted and it's cooling down, and the zest from 2 lemons. Probably a couple of teaspoons. I also have, for a syrup, 80 millilitres of lemon juice and 65 grams of caster sugar. Sorry, this is 200 grams of caster sugar and this is the 65. So when I said 265 earlier, I meant this and this one and this one combined. I also have, for a glaze on top, 125 grams of icing sugar and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. So this is very simple to put together. You start off with heating your oven at 180 Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, or 350 Fahrenheit, and then you simply combine the eggs. These are large eggs. In America that would be extra large, I think. The vanilla extract, the sugar, the lemon zest, and the yogurt. And then you whisk those together until they're all nicely combined. And you get that lovely lemon flavour. The zest of the lemon has most of the flavour. So once you've got that wet mixture combined, you simply pour in the flour, baking powder and salt, and you bring those together. Now for this recipe I'm using melted butter. You could use a flavourless oil, but if you use oil instead of butter, you have to remember that the oil has a higher fat content than the butter because the butter has water in it. So what you have to do is adjust the other ingredients as well. So you can't use 1 for 1 with oil. So if you were going to use oil in this, you would probably use about 120 millilitres of oil, and then up the amount of yogurt to 240, 250 millilitres. So mix this together. and then pour the butter in and continue to mix until it's all combined. I'm using butter simply because I prefer butter in cakes. So with the batter nicely combined, we're simply going to pour that into our tin. Right. So with that in the tin, and it levels off of its own accord because it's a nice wet batter, we're going to put that in the oven for 50 minutes or until a skewer in the centre comes out nice and clean. And we'll let that bake, and then just as that's almost ready to come out of the oven, or actually even when it comes out of the oven, you set it aside to cool for a few minutes before you take it out of the tin. So at that stage, what you want to do is put your 65 grams of sugar and your 2 tablespoons, and your 80 millilitres of lemon into a saucepan and bring them up to the boil to make a syrup. Once the sugar has melted, you'll have a syrup. You can let it thicken slightly, but I wouldn't let it thicken too much. So I'll do that part of it before I come back to you once the cake's out of the oven, and then we'll carry on with the rest of the recipe. Okay, so now I'm back with you, and here's our loaf cake. It baked for exactly 50 minutes and the skewer came out clean, and I have also now allowed it to cool for 10 minutes before I took it out of the tin. I've placed it on a baking tray on top of this wire, with the wire rack on top of the tray, and I've actually just put some parchment paper underneath it. That's only to make it easier to move later on. Because it's still warm on the baking tray, it will sort of begin to stick to the wires as we add this syrup. Now this syrup, as I said, you just bring it to the boil, the lemon juice and the 65 grams of sugar, and allow it to simmer for a minute or so, and then you just gently pour it over the cake, and it will start to seep in. This is just going to give it some extra moisture. And extra flavour. I think that's probably enough, to be honest, because we've already got the lemon zest in there. So the next thing to do is to make an icing, and I have 125 grams of icing sugar and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, which I'm just going to mix together, hopefully until we get a sort of a thick dropping consistency. Now if it's too thick, you could add a little bit, very little bit of water to thin it down, and if it's too thin, of course you can add more icing sugar. This is just going to give a lovely sweet top to the cake, and how you ice it is entirely up to you. You can put lines across it, or you can just pour it over and let it roll down the sides if it wants to. So I have quite a nice consistency there. So I'm going to just pour it on. And I'm going to get a spatula just to make it a bit easier. I'm going to spread that around a little bit. I apologise if you can hear my stomach rumbling, by the way, on this microphone. Right, I'm just going to taste that. Nice and sweet. So that's it. I'm going to let it cool down a little bit longer, and then I'll cut it, then we'll have a look at it. So I'll be back with you to do that a bit later. So I'm back with you now, and our cake has cooled down quite a bit. Still a little bit warm, but I'm going to just try to slice it. The icing will set a bit firmer. So just, that is so moist, you can just see it. Look, absolutely wonderful. Oh yeah, having some of that is lovely. So, if you've enjoyed this video, please click on the thumbs up below the video to say that you like it, and click on the subscribe button so you can subscribe to the channel and see all the existing videos and the ones which will come up in the future. I will be back with you again very soon with a new video, and until then, happy baking.